Hello and welcome back to 7 Days of Brave. This is my final day in this series in which I've been talking through stepping through our travel fears as women, potentially, or in the middle of doing solo travel. And the question I by far am asked most often by women who are a little apprehensive about traveling alone is that they say, but what if I'm lonely? And that's such a great question, and makes a lot of sense, right? And usually my first response is, of course you'll be lonely. Like, let's normalize it. I think it would be unusual for you to step out into something unknown that you may or may not have ever done before, doing it on your own, and think that you will never, ever be lonely, because it's probably not going to happen. It happens to me often, right? So first of all, I just want to normalize it, that it's okay if you're lonely. And I think some of that comes from the fact, and especially if you're an American, we are so surrounded by people and doing and going and doing all these things that if we at all slow down or are on our own or left alone with our thoughts, we can feel super lonely. So I want to push back on it a little bit and say that maybe being a little bit lonely is actually a good thing too, because it means that you're taking some time for yourself to be with yourself. And maybe we need a little bit of practice in terms of that, and just kind of normalizing that it's okay that you feel this way. And maybe we have packed our lives so busy that we haven't had to step into that idea of creating a relationship with ourselves, which I think is a huge benefit of solo travel. It's been a huge benefit for me. So I invite you to kind of step into that loneliness. If you're feeling lonely, step into those feelings and ask yourself where that's coming from. And maybe it is coming from a place of, I just have not given myself time, maybe even years, to be alone with myself. And maybe that's something that would be really valuable for you. But I do have a few other practical tips, because the reality is you can be in a foreign country and feel like, I just would like to meet some people, right? I don't want to be on my own. So a couple of ideas, a couple things that have worked for me is that when I know I'm going to be in a city or a country, I look on Facebook for expat groups. These are groups of internationals living abroad. And I know that you might want to, I know that there are some people who really want to focus on, well, I just want to meet the locals. But here's the thing, and I've had a conversation recently with someone traveling around the world about this, is that often these expat groups are your entry into meeting locals, because they live there and they often do know a lot of locals. So they might be your entree into those kind of conversations, those kind of meetings. But for example, here in Kosovo, there is a group of internationals that meet for coffee weekly. When I was in Albania last year, I found a small group of people who played cards every Wednesday at noon. So I would go to that, and it was a great way to meet people. Also a great way to get to know the area and ask questions and to learn a lot about the do's and don'ts of being safe in the country. These people have lots of insights on how to get around. It's also a great way to just get to know some people who have connections, so that if you ever get sick or run into an issue, these people know the area and they're great people to contact when you're alone in a country. If you're feeling sick, I've had it happen before where I've been feeling sick and then one of those people from a group I had met was willing to bring me some medicine and some soup. So those kind of go hand in hand. But yes, Facebook is a gold mine. And also just being aware when you're in a place, looking around for ways to make connections. One time I noticed people doing what I thought was going to be yoga on the waterfront in Albania, and I kind of followed and looked curiously at what was going on, and they waved me in and invited me to join them, and it was a group of Italians who were doing Tai Chi. Only one of them even spoke at all English, but they were so friendly, invited me in to do Tai Chi with them weekly, and they had a WhatsApp group. I'm still in their WhatsApp group, still see their notes to each other. So it's been a great way to meet people that I would have never expected to meet before. And then maybe another idea for you would be early on when you arrive somewhere, do like a walking tour or a food tour. Focus on something where there won't be massive numbers of people in the tour, and this is also a really great way to meet other people. It's often a great way to meet other solo travelers. When I was in Portugal last year, I met this really cool woman on a food tour. We just kind of started chatting. We both realized we were on our own. We ended up getting a glass of wine after the tour together, and connecting that way. So tours are also a really great way for you to connect with someone, pay attention to who you might connect with, and then don't be afraid afterwards to say, hey, would you like to get a drink, or would you like to have lunch, or whatever it is. So just keeping your eyes and ears out for places where people might congregate, where you could meet other travelers, other tourists, and then just kind of see how it goes. So those are my tips for combating loneliness or looking for connections with people in other countries. Like I said, Facebook expat groups are great, and food tours and walking tours are amazing too. And as I said, my first thing is to kind of step into it, and don't worry if you do feel a little bit lonely, because I just want to normalize that, because it's completely normal for you to feel that way, and don't be afraid to just allow it, and then do some of the other things I mentioned. Go find some people, find your people, enjoy your time, and best of luck. And as always, if you have more questions about solo travel, fears that you have, I always would love to hear your questions and be happy to answer them. Have a great day.